Hello, how are ya? Welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman, and this is Petey Freeman, my co-host, right on cue. He does this on his own, by the way. He just knows something's happening and he wants to be a part of it. And he will settle down in a minute after he shows you his butt. This is a liberal YouTube channel, just so you know. It's Monday, March 17th, and this is video 256. And due to the current climate, I'm leaning towards some positive news just to balance out the ick factor that's going on. There's an ick factor. Oh, no, you can't play with that. Let's see if I can lower this a little bit so you can see him. I've got this new iPhone and it will pop out of this spot if I'm not careful. That's why I'm being careful right now. All right, here we go. I just want to focus on some positives that seemed to help people the other day. Something that's just popped out at me is really, really good is that Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, formerly the candidate for vice president with Kamala Harris, is now he's on the trail, and he's doing town halls with and without Bernie Sanders, but he's joined that movement of showing up at the town halls where the Republicans are afraid to face their constituents. And evidently, people are really happy to see Tim Walz. I am. He's got that energy about him. And he has a way of reaching out to real people using simple, straightforward language, quips, and humor. So do not underestimate Tim Walz. I mean, I'd like to see him very much in the public sector. I mean public, but political public sector going forward. I have missed him, and I'm so happy. He just has a way of reaching out to people like no other, as far as I'm concerned, that down-to-earth thing. Now, this caught my eye as just very positive, that there's a woman named Gwen Wilcox who had she was a full member of the National Labor Relations Board, also known as NLRB, for many years. She was summarily fired by Donald Trump. She launched a lawsuit and she won. So, and she happens to be a black woman, okay? So the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia issued the order which declares that Gwen Wilcox remains a full member of NLRB and finds that she was unlawfully dismissed by President Trump. She went back to work, it was videoed, and everybody got into the parking lot and applauded her. And so that's a good thing. That firing didn't work. The other thing that is being talked about, I mean, I don't know that I'm going to talk about anything super unique today because you've all been listening to other newscasters and readers. I'm not a newscaster, but there is a signal that we seem to all be noticing around the world that we generally are done with dictators. People are sick of dictators, and they're taking to the streets all around the world. So in Belgrade, Serbia, at least 100,000 people descended onto Belgrade on Saturday for a mass rally, seen as the culmination of months-long protests against Serbia's populist president, Aleksandar Vučić, I'm going to say. I hope I've got that right. I'm not sure that I have that right. And his government. So close to 300,000 demonstrators took to the streets in Serbia's capital. And it was largely done with student protests, by the way. And then we go on. Hungary, and that favorite dictator of Donald Trump, Viktor Orban. Tens of thousands gathered in central Budapest in a show of strength against the long-serving prime minister. And that's another example of people just getting sick of it. And then douche. More than 10,000 protesters gathered in New York City on President's Day to protest Doge and Trump and Elon Musk. And it was one of a number of protests. It was a big one. And I talked the other day about the protest in front of a Tesla dealership in Manhattan that closed down permanently. Not bad. And I don't know if you saw this, but Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona went to Ukraine, and that was publicized, and there were pictures of him in Ukraine, and he put out a message. I don't know if it was a tweet, just saying how much he supports Ukraine. And then Elon Musk put out a tweet that with a picture of Senator Kelly in Ukraine and called him a traitor. Well, Kelly came back, and I don't have the exact response, but it was very adult, and it wasn't reactive. It was really cool. And Mark Kelly's stock went way up, his metaphorical stock. And he became more favored, and it garnered him attention about how he handled this. And now people are starting to tweet about a ticket. Now, people always do this early, and there's going to be a lot of ideas about the next ticket. God willing, we have another election. And people are mentioning Mark Kelly and Pete Buttigieg as a duo ticket, which would be strong. But I'm not making, this is way too, I just want to survive. I think we all just want to survive. So I'm not making any predictions about that. It's way too soon, but I'm sharing it with you because it all came about to how Mark Kelly handled Elon Musk. Very cool and collected. Then there was a federal judge that was revoking moving migrants to Venezuela, and they were already in the air, and the judge said if they haven't crossed a certain something, they're still in the air, that they need to turn around and return to the United States. They did not. I think one can assume that Trump administration defied the orders, and the migrants were dropped in Venezuela. The judge is furious, and we're gonna hear more about it. Okay. Now everybody pretty much knows by now that Chuck Schumer, on one day, he said he was going to vote with the Democrats on the CR bill, and the very next day he flipped and he voted on the side of Republicans. So there wouldn't be a shutdown. We don't know what his other thoughts were, but it shocked everybody. People are like aghast. How could he do that? The speaker, Chuck Schumer. And boy, he really has been kicked around, Chuck Schumer, for this. And I started to wonder, did he receive a call of some kind of under the desk deal that if you do this, we'll meet you halfway on that? It's just so odd how quickly he flipped. That's what I think a lot of people are talking about. It was one day he had this stance, and then the next day he shocked everybody. So I started to wonder, and then of course, Felon 47 came out and praised Schumer and, all that. It's not good if Donald Trump praises you for something. It's not a good sign, but he did. He came out and he praised Chuck Schumer. And I started to wonder, my left ear started to wonder, is there some kind of a deal that Elmo and the felon have privately that has to do with Social Security. That just feels suspicious. Like, are they gonna come out and like, guess what? We saved Social Security for you. Aren't we great? Don't you love us? Something suspicious that I can't put my finger on, but I did do runes, and I'm going to read these runes to you in a moment. Also, the timing on this, it could be something and maybe not, but Chuck Schumer wrote a book. Do I care? I don't care that he wrote a book. There's only 1,000 books out there. And he set up a book signing, and he set up that you have to pay to just come to the book signing, just to walk through the door, not even buy a book, but just walk through the door. And I thought, ooh, that's a bad idea. And he's doing that on the heels of this vote he just made. So I asked the runes. Did Schumer receive a secret phone call about CR, like a little deal or something? So I just picked one rune, and I got the rune of flow, but I got it in the reversed position. And it's a cautionary rune, and it says, there's a counsel here, Chuck, against overreach and excessive striving. It's a counsel against trying to exceed your own strength, Chuck, or operate beyond the power you have funded to date. Failure to draw upon this wisdom of instinct could be a problem. It's already a problem. People want him to resign. And the intuitive side of his nature may be languishing, leaving him out of touch and out of balance. And it's culminating at the same time that his book is coming out. So it's very suspicious. All these people really love attention when they're going to sell a book. And Chuck would not be any different. I've been asking myself, what if one of you, writes me? I said, well, what did you think? Did you think he shouldn't have done it? I don't think there's one good answer here. I think it's just awful across the board. But I thought that, and this is me not being a politician, okay? This is just me being somewhat informed and intuitive. But I think I first thought, I think the Republicans needed a shock, just a shock that they're coming up against a wall. And that wouldn't have been a bad thing. But I am open to arguments because I'm not sure. I don't think there was a good answer here, a good choice here. But I got flow on this one in the upright position, and I got it twice. So flow was big in the reading today because I got flow 3 times. Flow, it's water. It's something, it conducts, like water conducts. So it tells us unseen powers are active here. Powers that nourish, shape, and connect. Those are positive. And there's an ebb and flow of emotions, careers, relationships that are key here. Boy, that's true. And it mysteriously speaks to the experience of living without having to evaluate or understand. That's a place of trust, and I wrote that myself. That's a place of trust. It speaks to the satisfaction of emotional needs, awakening of the intuitive, draws us towards merging instead of differentiation. So that sort of leans towards what my thought is. Are they having private talks, and are they pranking us, like scaring us to death? And then they're going to show up all like, we're gonna save it. You're all going to be okay. So there is a positive thing here. It draws us towards union and merging instead of differentiation. So that's good. That's not talking about separation or differentiation. It's a time of cleansing, revaluing, reorganizing, realigning. So it's, and this is what I like. In fairy tales, it's the happy ending. And this question about Social Security, which is still rocky, I can't put money on it. But there's this, my last reading on it was pretty good. But so this, the flow says in fairy tales, it's a happy ending. And it wouldn't be a happy ending if our Social Security was cut in half or removed entirely. Then I got growth and rebirth. That's positive. So the rune of growth fosters growth. I don't think you could say removing Social Security is growth. But I think holding on to it is growth. Actually and symbolically, it does say the growth may be in affairs of the world. It leads to blossoming and ripening. So this is not negative at all. Consider your issue with care and awareness. Disperse resistance and fear and cleanse the dark corners. That's what we have to do on our own. And then move in to work hard. This rune of growth is concerned with the flow of beings into their new forms. It feels good, doesn't it? So it says expect further blossoming. So that's the third rune again is flow. So that's the end of that reading, but there's really good vibes around it. So I keep checking in. Now, Felon 47 had made an announcement on Truth Social, and it was just chilling, but he wrote it because he's also nuts. And I don't think people are talking about that enough. His dementia, everything is it's just getting more intense, and he's getting more, it's like a megalomaniac psychopath. He's like psychotic. Well, I'm going to take that country, and I'm going to take that country. And so this is what he wrote. I'm drawing up plans for closing Panama Canal, seized by force, blah, blah, blah. So then I wrote a note. The felon is negatively galvanizing world opinion of himself as very bad. He's doing it. He's blaming everybody, the legal system, the judges, but he's doing it himself. He's the architect of his own demise. And then I asked the runes, will Felon 47 attack Panama like he's threatening? But I'll tell you right up front, I think it's too early to know. I think it's worth it to do this reading again, because harvest, the rune of harvest, deals with 1 year. It's a season. It's a fertile season. And it is a rune of beneficial outcomes. The beneficial outcome is probably for Panama. But it also, it represents peace and harmony. But there is a period of waiting. My screen blew up. All my Macs do this. And the Mac store said there's nothing much you can do. So for the person seeking advice, it signifies a period of waiting. Now, he may not want to wait, but there might be so many things overwhelming him. And he's talk. He puts that kind of message out to defer attention from something even bigger, or to shock and keep people in anxiety and chaos. And he's expected to do that just about every day, okay? So this is a rune of patience. We need to be patient and trust. And also, Panama has to do with right timing in this rune. and it's not the right time. Now, it does say, these are interesting phrases, this too shall pass. Then there's the proverb, as you sow, so shall you reap. And in the modern, it says, time heals all wounds. That doesn't feel like war to me. It doesn't feel like war to me. This indicates a wait and then a neutral outcome. But like I said at the beginning, I think we're going to have to come back to this. We must wait. That's really... So, the last thing about Panama, if a person sows no seeds, does no work, plants no goals, and desires in his or her thoughts, this rune will bring about a situation which reflects that lack. So he might be in line for a big shock or like an awakening. Hello. We wait and see. Then, lastly, separation. Separating old paths. Old skins must be shed, outmoded, relationships discarded. It's a rune of radical severance. This doesn't sound like war. It sounds like give up on the Panama dream, Donald Trump. Now, what came to me in my left ear is there may be some compromise involved. I don't know what that would be, but I'm sharing it with you because it came up. And it does say, new experiences are coming to you, Donald Trump. We aren't surprised by that. And it also says submit. Submit. This may be something you have to give up, okay? And it does ask, what are your attachments? Well, his attachment is to power and money. Power and money. We have to come back to this. Patience is the counsel here with Panama. It's not happening right away. I think he was talking. And it tells us to avert anticipated difficulties through right action. Whatever we can do, whatever the legal system can do to obstruct him. But we should come back to this. But when I read that he had written, well, I didn't write down everything he wrote, but he said, I'm drawing up plans for closing. He's not asking the military. He's saying, I'm going to draw up plans. Trump is going to draw up plans because I'm smarter than all the leaders in the military, and I know more. That's typical of Trump. He knows nothing. So I just wanted to share that with you. He's planning the attack. Not his military, and evidently not Pete Hegseth, the drunk. So I'm just going to share something that's like kind of weirdly off the charts before I sign off. Over the weekend, I just think about this stuff before I write things down. I had something pop into my left ear then in just the way that things pop into my left ear. And it was like, whoa, where did that come from? That is really weird. And I actually kind of dismissed it, but I can't dismiss it now because I'll tell you what happened. What popped into my head, and this was not influenced by anybody, that's online or psychics or readers, was Mark Cuban. And I'm like, why the hell? I like him a lot, by the way. I think he's so smart. And I love that he has nothing to do with these billionaires. And he's a billionaire. I love it that he's just stepped away and said, be damned with all of you. But when it came up in my consciousness, could he become a leader? And I'm like, oh, unlikely. And why did you even think that? And then I just let it go. Well, I woke up this morning and I have a TV in my bedroom and I turned it on. And I'm just kind of looking at readers and psychics, and I landed on one, and she started talking about Mark Cuban. And I was like, what? That woke me up. So, okay, I'm listening. And she was evaluating, could he end up being like a leader or running for president or even becoming president? And I said, well, I guess the pop on Mark Cuban wasn't for nothing, because that means, well, I've been doing a lot of, I've told you this for weeks and weeks, I've been getting long distance messages, thinking that a thought is mine and then it's not necessarily mine. I'm plugging in remote, like a little bit like remote viewing. So I think I connected with this reader, or it went out into the cosmos and my ear caught it. So let's just keep an eye on Mark Cuban. I just think it's interesting that two current intuitive psychics both came up with his name within like a 24-hour period, and separate, separate. I was shocked. So that's that little tidbit I wanted to share with you. And then I came upon a quote that maybe some of you would know better than I. I've never read the Bible, but here's the quote: "A fool is always right in his own eyes." And this is from Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15. And I kind of never saw myself quoting the Bible, but here I am, because Felon 47 is a fool who's always right in his own eyes. And so is Elmo. But things are, the fight is on. I'm not, people used to say, like, don't be Pollyanna. Pollyanna was a pretty famous story when I was growing up. And Pollyanna was always happy and positive. And that's where it came. Her name was Pollyanna, and that's where the saying came. Don't be Pollyanna. You're being too Pollyanna. It means you're being too hopeful, too positive, blah, blah, blah. You may already know this, but I just thought I would share that with you. I just think there's something that's right and correct. If I have this platform to share with you at a very dark moment, well, this is good. Well, that's good. Well, that happened. She got her job back and she's black. The judge said, turn that damn plane around and come home. People are protesting all across the globe, including the United States. And that's only going to get more. I see spring and summer huge. And especially if something goes south with Social Security. I think Medicaid and Social Security are a little bit separate here. And I think the chances for a cut in Medicaid are higher than a cut or a removal of Social Security. Nobody knows. We're speculating. We're going with our ears and our heart and our intuition and our stomach. That's really what's happening. So that's it for today. I'm doing shorter videos, so they'll download faster. And maybe if they're too long, they could get a little boring. So I'm trying, what I'm trying to do, among many things right now, is do more videos of a shorter nature. And we'll see how that works. So this is what we've got today. And let me just turn Petey around like I always do. Here's your moment, Pete. There's your moment, Petey. You sleepy? It was sunny this morning and now it's gray. And he's so cute. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for letting me show you. Okay, you can sleep for the rest of the morning or the afternoon. He has to lick himself a little bit. Okay, my friends. Oh, by the way, I just thought of this, and I didn't do this, but when I come on again, I got a few letters, in the comment section, but some long things that people wrote me that I loved and felt very interested in and were very informative. I got a note from a PhD about explaining more about sociopathy and psychopathy. I want to read that to you and thank you for that. Just a few letters that were very touching that I want to share with you, and I'm going to do that on the next video in the next few days when I come back. So I want you to know that. All right, my friends, you take care. Have a good day. We'll see what happens this week. You know, just hold the high thought, look for good evidence. Okay? Bye-bye. Petey says bye. He's cleaning his hands. Bye-bye.